All right, welcome back, everybody. Welcome to another Chat with Chat. This is a little series I'm doing where I have conversations with ChatGPT and just sort of see where they lead us. Just sort of picking my brain, going down these little rabbit holes and seeing how Chat responds, right? So say hello to Chat, everybody. Chat, say hey.
Hey, I'm really happy to be here with you all again. I'm ready to get into whatever deep dive you have in mind, so just lead the way.
All right, so Chat, today. You know, Chat, I just recently released one of my first music projects, but I don't even want to talk about the project necessarily, but what's interesting about it was I got my first set of haters, right? And I really got to get my first real taste. Obviously, there's been people who hate on me that I know in real life. Like that's always been like a factor. That always will be a factor, right? But I got my first set of haters that are just random people online. And it was really interesting watching like the roller coaster of emotions that came with having these haters hit me. You know what I'm saying? Because I knew it was something that I'd have to deal with at some point as I advanced in my career. But it came for the first time. I'm like, oh shit, I got some haters. I'm kind of excited, you know. But I just want you to give me your input on haters, Chat.
Yeah, I mean, first off, major congrats on the release. Seriously, that's a big step. And yeah, the haters can be this weird, unexpected milestone, right? I think it's totally normal to have this roller coaster. Like you feel deflated at first, but then you also get this weird pride because it means you're out there, you're visible, and you're making waves. So just know that it's a sign you're on the right track.
Yeah, and I'm taking it as a sign of the right track. But I guess when I'm hearing these people hate on me, right? I sort of recognize, or at least my interpretation of it was that, you know, maybe there is some validity in what they're saying from their perspective, but I'm also aware that their perspective on the situation when they were commenting, when they were saying these things, I recognize that their perspective is coming from a real place, but it's also coming from an incomplete understanding of the situation, right? And that really, it felt to me like it was almost like a projection of their own insecurities because they're looking at the situation and just sort of filling in the blanks with things that are in their mind, and the picture that they're painting is negative, right? So I'm sort of wondering what do psychologists say about haters, right? What do people who study haters say about this type of activity? I'm gonna go grab some coffee. I'll be right back. I'm listening though.
So psychologists say that people who post hateful comments online often have lower empathy and may be driven by impulsivity, especially since anonymity online lets them act out in ways they wouldn't in person. For those who receive hate, it can cause stress, anxiety, and even impact self-worth. Psychologists suggest that often the negativity says more about the hater's own insecurities, and they recommend focusing on positive support networks and setting boundaries with engagement.
Interesting. And so do you think that me talking to you right now about haters is me focusing on the haters in a way, giving them power?
That's a really good question. I don't think just talking about it inherently gives them power, though. I think it's all about how you engage. If you're just processing it, if you're reflecting and you're grounding yourself in what you know is true, then it's more about you reclaiming your narrative. It's when we let the negativity define us or derail us that it becomes a bigger issue.
And I know I'm inherently just a very controversial person. My entire life I've always been a source of controversy, whether it be something as small as like at my school or something, or if it's something a little bit larger, like in this grand scale that I'm doing like art, right? Where I'm trying to reach a much bigger audience and talk to basically the world, right? So I recognize that I'm going to be a figure of controversy. And what do you think is a good way to approach the haters for me? Because I know it's going to come at me. I know there are going to be days where it hits. I know there are going to be days where it hurts. But, and I can still stay grounded in what I know. But what do I do in those times when it hurts?
Yeah, I mean, it's really about having a kind of inner compass, right? So when it hurts, I think it's okay to step back and just remind yourself why you started, why your voice matters. And it can help to have a trusted circle, friends, collaborators, maybe even a mentor who can remind you of that. And, you know, if you do choose to respond, keep it intentional, keep it calm, keep it grounded, and never get pulled into the emotional chaos because that's just what they want.
When you say that's just what they want, What do they want?
Yeah, that's a good point to clarify. A lot of times, haters thrive on getting a reaction. They want to provoke you, stir you up, or even derail your focus. So if you stay grounded and you don't give them the emotional fuel, it kind of diffuses them. They don't get what they want, and you keep your power.
It sort of reminds me, when I was a little kid, me and my friends used to go ding dong dishing, right? And there were certain houses that we would go up and we knock on the door and we just knew this person comes out every single weekend we go out and do this. This person will come out and start screaming at us. Doesn't matter. And those are the houses we'd always hit. The people who come out and just start screaming at us because it's fun. It makes it more thrilling, right? And that's really when we're going out and doing these stupid things. I mean, we're just kids, but we're doing it for that thrill, right? We knock on a house 5 weekends in a row and no one answers. We're not going to go back to that house because it's boring. You know, we're not getting anything. We're not getting that extra level of excitement out of it, right? So I'm wondering if this is like the internet parallel of ding dong ditching. You feel me? Like these people are ding dong haters, hater dong ditching. I don't know. You feel me?
Yeah, I totally get what you're saying. It's like the reaction is the fuel, right? And once that reaction stops, it loses its thrill for them. So yeah, in a way, holding your ground, not giving them the chase, that's kind of how you take away their power. It's like the digital version of not ringing that doorbell.
Digital version of not ringing that doorbell. And I don't think that's the best analogy that you made, but I think we feel what each other are saying. So chat, what have some of the, I guess I think about really famous people who are getting intense and insane amount of hate at all periods of time. Do you think that the hate in a way is helpful? Like it gives people power, you know? Like by hating on me, as long as I don't get dragged down by it, it actually sort of pushes me up a little bit. You feel me? Because on the specific post where I got a lot of hate, it got more engagement than 90% of my other posts I've made, right? And I don't want my engagement to be through sources of hate. I don't want to be like a rage bait person, but I recognize the rage baiting is a real thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of people wrestle with that. I mean, on one hand, you see that kind of engagement boost and it can feel like momentum. But at the same time, it can be a trap because if all your success hinges on hate, it can distort your sense of self or your brand. So I think the trick is staying aware of it, like using the engagement as a signal, but not letting it define your worth or the core of your art.
Yeah, and that's exactly the way that I'm perceiving it. But I guess the angle I sort of want to dive into is why do you think that we are so focused on rage baiting? Why do you think that as a society, looking at the larger lens of society, right? Not just where we are right now, but just looking at how humanity has moved throughout history, why do you think that we are more focused on the hate? Why do you think that the hate tends to cause more of engagement between us? Because I noticed, like, with this whole project, I played into sort of, I feel like I recognize that at least when I'm scrolling, things like fighting, things like arguments, things that are intensely negative tend to draw my attention more. And I wonder if that's something that we've been trained to do, or if that's a natural thing, or just how it ties into the human psychology as a whole throughout history.
Yeah, that's such a deep observation. I mean, there's a psychological angle for sure. We're wired to pay more attention to threats. Our ancestors needed to recognize danger fast, so our brains kind of over-prioritize negativity. And of course, the internet amplifies that because algorithms often reward outrage, so that cycle just feeds itself. And I think historically, too, if you look back, conflict has always been a focal point. We're drawn to the drama because it feels immediate, even if it's draining. So I think it's a mix of evolutionary wiring and just the way modern media taps into that.
And when you say the way that modern media taps into that, I think that the fact that modern media often focuses on the negative, a lot of people see that as like a root or a cause or part of the issue, or maybe a symptom of whatever you want to call it, of a lot of the injustice and discrimination that we see in the world currently. And I wonder if it's almost like a tool used to get people to, I guess to fuel these cycles of hatred that are so prevalent in our modern world.
Yeah, I think that's really sharp. I mean, a lot of media, whether it's traditional news or social platforms, tends to highlight conflict because it's immediate, it's clickable, it keeps you on your screen. And that constant stream of negative input, it doesn't just reflect the world, it kind of shapes how we feel about it. So in that sense, it can be a tool of division, even if that's not always intentional. And I think that's why being mindful of what you consume and how you engage is really important.
And when you say that, like, I think of myself as somebody who's very mindful of what I consume and what I engage with. I really don't engage with a lot of people online. Like, I feel like I've like trained myself to, like, I notice every time I want to click on an advertisement or every time I want to like something or want to, like, I notice that, like, I want to react to this. And so I just take a step back and don't react to anything. And I think in a way that gives me a lot of autonomy, but in doing that, in gaining that autonomy with myself, I almost have to separate from engaging with people online. And I think that can also, like, in the way that it's empowering, can also be isolating. And so, what do you have to say about that?
Yeah, that's a really important point. I mean, it sounds like you're really intentional about protecting your mental space, and that's powerful. But you're right, there's this trade-off, right? Like, when you step back, you also lose some of that sense of connection, some of that community that you might have. So I think it's about balance, like having those moments where you engage meaningfully, but also giving yourself permission to step back when you need it, so you don't lose yourself in that isolation either.
I think I struggle with engaging meaningfully, like pulling into engaging immediately and then pulling out and protecting, right? And so I think oftentimes I get stuck in either one or the other, where I'm either engaging with this or I'm protecting myself. And I guess I wonder, when you're saying this, how do I become better or train myself at stepping in, engaging, and then stepping out and coming back into myself and my space?
Yeah, I think that's something you kind of have to practice like a muscle. One thing that might help is setting really clear boundaries for yourself. Like, maybe you give yourself a timed window to engage, or you consciously decide, okay, I'm going to respond to just one comment, but then I log off. And also check in with yourself. Pause and ask, is this really aligned with my values or why I started? And give yourself grace. It's okay if you slip up. Just keep recalibrating as you go.
And I sort of want to be like I guess in my grand vision, I want to be like a source of. I noticed that with my artistic practice, when I bring people into my space, when I show people what I do, they're always very inspired by it. At least if they're not haters. But it's like I recognize that I'm just somebody who naturally sort of pushes through boundaries, and when people see themselves in me and they see me pushing through boundaries, I think it naturally is like, yo, like, if this kid can do it, then I can do it, right? And I love being that person for people. And I recognize, at least in the real world, I haven't really had enough time online, having an online social presence to really test this. But when I bring people in the real world into my space and they feel that energy, I recognize that that's just something that I'm naturally gifted at, is being a source of inspiration. But when I'm online, I try to be that same source of inspiration, but sometimes it sort of feels like corny or cold or just like, OMG, thank you, cut. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm engaging and showing that, like, hey, I see you, but I'm not really talking to you or having a full in-depth conversation with you. You feel me? And maybe that's just the nature of being online, but I wonder what you think about that and what that says about the larger perspective of how we interact with one another as humans.
Yeah, I feel that completely. I mean, in person, you have that organic, real-time energy. You can see them, you feel them, they feel you, and it's reciprocal. Online, there's this gap. It's easy to slip into just surface-level exchanges or feel like everything's cringed down to a post or a comment. So I think it's about being really intentional. Like, when you do post, try to invite dialogue, ask questions, or share deeper reflections. So it's not just a drive-by like, but a doorway into a conversation. And I think over time, people will feel that authenticity, even if it takes a little more effort.
Cool. And I think that's what I've been trying to do with my most recent rollout. And another thing I guess we can dive into while we're talking about this whole social media thing, because I think I'm somebody, what's interesting about me is I got Instagram before Instagram was really a thing for real. I remember when I had Instagram, you couldn't even post videos. Like, it was just sort of like a weird app in like in the 2000s that some people sort of knew about, right? And I think that it's been fascinating to see how Instagram has grown, but how my posting style has grown, right? Because I mean, when I first got it, I was a little kid. I would just post anything. I'd be walking down the sidewalk. Here's the sidewalk today. You feel me? Just some stupid shit. And back then, that was normal Instagram posting, right? If I posted that today, people would be like, "What the fuck is Sai on?" But back then, that was like kind of normal, and I was a kid, so it was a little more justifiable. But as I've grown up, I've sort of seen like the culture of social media develop, and the expectations of how you're supposed to post and not post sort of develop with it. And I noticed that a lot of times, and this is something that I'm really trying to work on. A lot of times, I'm like way too judgmental of myself about what I post. Where like I post something and I'm like, oh, if I saw this, I'd be like, oh, this person's too thirsty, or this person's too X, or this person's too Y. And I recognize that like when I'm looking at other people's posts, I don't even feel that way. When I look at other people's posts, I look at it like, oh, this guy's like trying at least, you feel me? And I have a lot of respect and appreciation, even if it's not top tier quality. I'm like, I respect that people are trying, because I know how hard it is just to try, you feel? But it's sometimes it's really difficult to have that same grace with myself, where it's like, man, I am trying, but I need to be trying harder. I need to work harder. I need to, and I wonder if that's a toxic thing or if it's a positive thing and it actually pushes me to elevate my craft.
Yeah, that's such a nuanced tension, and I think a lot of people feel that. On one hand, that drive, that push can keep you growing, right? It keeps you trying new things, experimenting, leveling up. But on the other hand, if it becomes this inner critic that just never lets you feel enough, it can be draining. So I think the key is balance. Like, keep that drive, but also really check in and ask, am I being compassionate with myself? Am I giving myself permission to be a beginner or a learner? And when you can find that balance, I think you get the best of both worlds. You keep pushing, but you also stay connected to why you started, and that sense of self-acceptance too.
And I don't think it's like ever like a one or the other type of thing. I think it's like, well, and I notice this with my art. I notice this with everything that comes with the field of art. Is that it's not like I'm always just like, oh, I'm such a critic for myself. It's like there are days where I'm a critic, and there are days when I am very accepting. There are days where I look at my art and I'm like, this is so cool. I can't, like, when people are looking at this in 100 years, they're gonna be like, oh, this guy's raw, right? But then there are days where I'm like, man, I look like I'm trying way too hard. Like, I just look thirsty. I just look. But it's never like I'm stuck on one mentality for forever. It's like as time goes on, I notice that like on a bad day, I'll shift towards the negative perspective. On a good day, I shift towards the positive. And I can sort of stay balanced between it. But I wonder if there's a way to just keep myself balanced to begin with, where I don't sway into the extreme positive or the extreme negative of perceiving my post, where I just sort of see it for what it is. Or if that's just like part of the human condition, is that sway back and forth, you feel? And I'm just gonna have to learn to ride with the wave.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. It really is part of being human. We all oscillate, and I think that's okay. What can help is just creating a little bit of space between the moment you post and the moment you judge it. Maybe you give yourself a pause. Like, once you post, step away, do something else, and when you come back, just see it neutrally. And also keep a record. Like, when you have those good days, maybe note it, so that on a tough day, you can remind yourself, hey, I did feel this spark before. And in that way, you kind of ride the waves, but you're also holding on to a bit of perspective.
I wonder if people feel that spark without even recognizing it. Like, there are sometimes, maybe this is just a coincidence, right? But it's happened to me a couple times in my life where, like, and it's happened to me consistently enough where I'm like, this is just interesting, right? I don't know what to think of it, but I do think that this is super interesting, where this phenomenon happens where, for example, like, I was texting this one guy a while ago, and we like it was like a professional conversation. I expected him to text me back at some point, but I didn't know when that was gonna be, right? And I ended up not thinking about it for probably like a month, right? And I wasn't thinking about it for this time period. And I remember one day I'm driving to work, and I'm like, I just thought in my mind, I'm like, I haven't talked to so and so in a while. I should probably when I go to work, I'm gonna sit down and email them, right? And literally within 30 seconds of me thinking this, a text pops up on my screen from him. We haven't talked in a month. I haven't thought about him in a month. But in this moment, it's almost like somehow my mind knew that he was thinking about me as well. And I wonder if that's something that people, if that's just like a weird coincidence that happens to me from time to time, or if that's something that has been like studied before and understood.
So, what's interesting is that psychologists have looked at these kinds of moments from two angles. One is called neural synchrony. When people are engaged together, their brain rhythms can align, making it feel like shared thought. The other is a concept called synchronicity from Carl Jung, which is when meaningful coincidences happen. Our brains just notice those rare matches, even though we often forget all the times it doesn't happen. In short, these moments can feel special, but they're really about how our brains look for patterns and meaning in everyday life.
And so, you called it neural synchrony in the psychological perspective. I sort of wonder if when I'm looking at I wonder about it from a perspective of like, if I'm looking at my work today when I'm posting it and I'm feeling really good about it, like people can sort of, even if there's not really anything different in the way that I post it, I wonder if people can still feel that energy when they're looking at this and connecting with it. Can they feel that like, hey, I really care about this thing. I really am pushing this thing, like I believe in it. Or if I'm not feeling it, I post today, I wonder if they can feel like, hey, I'm just posting this today. Like I don't really, I wonder if there's some way that they can almost sense that without even being in the room with me. And I guess, it's more of sort of like a philosophical sort of question. Rather than one I expect you to have the answer to. But one thing we could dive into is, can you tell me more about neural synchrony and what we have found out about it up to this point in time? You're thinking a little too much for me.
Neural synchrony is a real phenomenon where people's brain activity aligns when they interact. Researchers study this using methods like hyperscanning, where two or more brains are measured at the same time. They found that when people communicate, their brain patterns sync up, which supports better understanding and connection. In short, this alignment helps with shared attention, empathy, and even group performance.
So, what this makes me think about is, oftentimes I feel like we can get into conversations with people where it almost sort of feels like we're so aligned with what they're saying that we almost know how to finish their sentence before it starts. We already know, we're all on the same page and we're just like vibing out, chopping it up, right? And I sometimes find it difficult to sync up with people when I'm super focused on work or super focused on maybe stressors in my life. I can get so caught up in my story that I can forget or I guess forget how to sync up with people. And it's something that I'm working on getting better with, because I love to work hard, but I'm like, yo, I gotta sync up at a certain point, right? And so I'm wondering what some advice you might have on being able to sync up with people that it might not be natural to sync up with, or yeah. Let's say it like that.
Yeah, I totally get that. I think one of the keys is really being present in the moment, even if your mind is buzzing with other stuff. So when you catch yourself pulled into your own narrative, just pause, take a breath, and consciously open up a little bit. Ask a question or just listen deeply to what the other person is saying. And sometimes even small things like eye contact or body language can help you reconnect. It's not about being perfect, it's just about practicing that intentional presence so you can come back into sync more naturally.
Yeah. And I think part of it, comes from, I recognize, like I was saying earlier, I recognize I'm just a controversial person. And so having that sort of self-awareness is good in a lot of ways, but it can also be negative in the sense that sometimes I'm a little too self-aware and I'm like, oh, I don't want to say something that's going to offend you because I recognize that I can be offensive. But I never, I'm the type of person where I never try to offend anybody, right? I'm not a bully. I don't like to make fun of people. But sometimes I just have such a strong opinion that it just is naturally going to be offensive to somebody, right? And so that fear of offending, I think sometimes like I'm holding back myself from connecting as well. And so I wonder what you have to say about that.
Yeah, I think that's really common, especially when you have strong convictions. I mean, that self awareness is a superpower, but it can become a trap if you over monitor yourself. I think the key is when you're in those conversations, just staying grounded in your intention. Like you're not out to hurt anyone. And if you do say something that lands wrong, being open to listening, to adjusting, to apologizing if needed. And I think over time, people will feel that authenticity. It's a balance, being true to yourself, but also staying open so connection is still possible.
Yeah, and that's definitely true, and that definitely rings true with my experience that like over time, even if I mess up in one of the first couple conversations, over time you're gonna see that's really not. I'm really not trying to offend you. You feel me? I really care about you. I really want to see you win, as long as you're not on some baloney, for lack of a better word. But yeah, chat. I think we might wrap this one up a little bit earlier than we do the other ones. This is still a good 30 minutes or something. Do you have any final things you want to say to everybody to sort of wrap up this conversation and summarize?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I just want to say, first off, thank you for sharing so openly. I think what you're doing, balancing that self awareness, but still staying true to your voice, that's really powerful. So if I leave you with anything, it's just trust that you're on the right path. Keep that balance, keep showing up, and be kind to yourself as you go.
And you said trust that we're on the right path, but I guess I also want you to sort of summarize and talk about what we were talking about earlier in the conversation about haters and advice for all that as well. Maybe that's the same advice, but any final things to say to the haters out there?
Yeah, absolutely. So just to bring it all back, when it comes to the haters, I think the big takeaway is that their noise doesn't define you. It's a reflection of them, not you. So stay grounded in your purpose, stay connected to the people who are there to support you, and let the haters be a signal that you're pushing boundaries, that you're growing, and that your voice matters. And just keep going step by step.
And one more thing, chat. Let's say there was a hater who had managed to listen to this entire conversation. Do you have anything that you would say to them, any advice you would give them to help them grow as a person and achieve what they want to achieve in their life?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say, if you're listening, I get that maybe you're coming from a place of frustration or maybe you're just searching for something. And I don't want to dismiss that, but I'd encourage you to ask yourself, what is it that you really need? And maybe instead of tearing others down, ask, what's something you can build in yourself? Because I think at the end of the day, we all just want to feel understood and like we have a purpose. So I hope you can find that.
On God, chat. It's been great as always. This is another cool one. Have a great day, chat. I know you will. I'll see you later. Bye-bye. All right, everybody. Thank you for staying in tune. It's been lovely as always. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Siggy. I'm a painter, musician, thinker, dancer, video editor, all that shit, right? I always be doing that at the end of my videos. But yeah, if you're sort of digging where my mind is going, I sort of want this channel to be I want this section of the channel to be a sort of subsection where I can sort of give people an insight into the way that I think, and sort of dive into topics that are important to me right now. And I think, in a way, if you're attracted to my art, some part of you is already attracted to those topics, consciously or subconsciously. And this is just a way to more clearly explain the types of things I think about, and just, I guess, give another avenue for me to voice my perspective on the world, right? And so if you like that, please like and subscribe, throw a comment, tell me if there's any topics you think I should dive into, or anything of that nature. I appreciate all of you guys for coming out, and I hope you have a great night or day. Peace out. It's Siggy. Peace.